All right, welcome to the Eagles Nest. This is one of our first interviews that we're doing. I have here with me Coach Gary Miner, the head football. There we go, already mess it up. We have Gary Miner, the head baseball coach at Maple Mountain High School. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you. Welcome, and thank you for having me.
All right, so we want to just get in and get to some of the questions, but first, I'd like you to just kind of tell those who may not know you or what you've done in your past. Just tell me a little bit about your coaching experience and where you're coming from.
All right, we'll go backwards. So I graduated from Springville High School, went on a mission, came home, and I went to BYU, walked on, played baseball there. Had a great time playing college baseball and worked on my education certificate at the same time. When I graduated, or as I graduated, I then went to Springville High School, and I student taught there and also coached with my former high school coach for a couple of years. And from there went to Orem High School in 1992 and started my full-time teaching career. I taught and coached at Orem High School football and baseball, a little bit off and on for both of them, but for the most part of 17 years. I was the head coach of Orem's baseball program the last few years at Orem High, and then transferred here to Maple Mountain in 2009. I've been the head baseball coach here since 2009. So we were in our 11th year as a program at that point.
Yeah, this has definitely been a tough year.
Yeah, not fun, not fun.
So as a coach, and you've been doing this for a long time, so I'd say as a veteran coach, what do you expect or what values do you have for your team besides win?
We say all the time that the process is more important than the outcome. So do the process the way it's supposed to. Another little slogan, we say, control what you can control. There's only two things you can control, attitude and effort. So to avoid just saying that the outcome is the only thing that matters, we're trying to say, come on, do it the right way. So the expectations as far as practice is concerned, your behavior within a ball game, that standard is held to the coaching staff as well as the players, that there's a whole lot more to this process than just the outcomes. So don't let the outcomes get in the way of, doing the right things in the right ways. Do it the right way. Don't try and cheat in practice. Just work hard.
And I love that because in watching, as I've taken pictures and stuff over the years, I watch how, your attention to details and the rules and the other things of the game is, it's very interesting to me how you push that onto the boys as they're out there playing and practicing.
Well, yeah, we try and communicate and say, look, you have your responsibilities. We have ours as coaches. And when, for example, an umpire makes a bad call, I've seen so many teams and so many players, that becomes the focus, that becomes the drive. And you were competitive, you were in a game, and then one little teeny thing causes you to fall apart. If you're going to be competitive, if you're going to be consistent, you got to learn how to get rid of that. And so if I go appeal an umpire's decision, I think they've made a bad call based on a rule application. But a lot of times the umpires don't even know the rules. So if we get told, no, that's the ruling, I can jump up and down and yell and scream. But the object was to win the ball game today. So I have to flush it. I have to move on. We have to control what we can control, which is not the umpires, and move on instead of saying, well, we would have won, but, and we don't like to lay the blame on anybody but ourselves.
That's great. So what is the most rewarding part to you about being a coach?
Oh, I think there's a couple of answers to that. Number one is I absolutely love the interaction with these young guys. by the time they come to high school, most of them have a pretty decent talent set. So they may know how to play the game physically, but I really like seeing them understanding team concepts. I like seeing them being able to overcome personal challenges and start to realize that they still have room to grow in. And as I watch year after year, I see boys who figure it out. And when they start to figure that out and look at their teammates and what can I do to help him or us, that's very, very rewarding. So that's number one, is just the relationships you develop. Number two is just the game itself. Baseball's a quirky game, but I love learning how to play the game, teaching the boys to play the game itself. That, yes, they know this much, but there's other parts of it. And I'm still learning the game of baseball as far as ways to scheme, ways to strategize. Just that part of it is intriguing. Baseball has sometimes been described as you can pack a 2-hour game into 10 seconds worth of excitement. Yeah, but who's paying attention for the other 2 hours? That to me is very, very intriguing. What could you learn in the first inning as a hitter that you could apply in the 7th inning? And that requires a lot of mental focus, and that's hard, especially for a high school player.
Yeah, and I've actually seen you work with the kids and talk to them about, what did you see here? What just happened? Why did this happen? So I not being a big baseball guy myself and learning the game over the years myself, I've been really intrigued by that whole chess match and the strategy and things that are going on in a baseball game. It's actually made it much more interesting for me.
Yeah, there's times when we make strategies that parents don't appreciate / understand. I'll just give you a positive example on our side. There was a player from Springville several years ago, and I played in the youth leagues against this young man and with him, and I knew his tendencies, his strengths, and he was a good player. And we just did some defensive adjustments in the course of a ball game, basically playing percentages, a shift of sorts. Mm-hmm. And his parents and the opposing crowd went nuts. And my response is, okay, I've made my chess move. Now you make yours. And when the kid grounded into a double play, that it played right into it. It was, I'm glad we pay attention to the ball game.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit about this season so far. And, you know, we started out the season, you had a few preseason games, a tournament down in St. George prior to the coronavirus shutdown. And talk to me about what you saw in those games that kind of gave you a little hope for the season before all of this other stuff.
Well, first of all, we were 6-2. We lost 2 games in St. George. We easily could have been 8-0 at this point. So, number one, our talent. We have a lot of players, 1 to 9, 1 to 12, 13, 14 in our lineup who are very competent, very capable. So we've got a lot of depth this year that is and was very encouraging. We hope there's an is. Pitching. Our pitching staff has been stellar. Kudos to Coach Ferrier, his commitment and dedication through the winter months to make sure the boys were ready. So very excited about pitching. Was not going to be a problem in the sense that they would always keep us in a ball game. And then it was up to us on the defensive and offensive side to make sure that we executed as well. But we're very young. We have most of our team is juniors. And so that's always encouraging to know that they're fighting for and challenging for spots at a young age. They've got a lot of experience. A lot of them played last year. So we had very high hopes going into the season.
Nice. And so talking about, you know, we're into this suspension at this point through May 1st, I think is what UHSAA has said. What would you tell the boys to do to keep at it, or what types of drills or practice things they can do on their own in isolation?
Officially or unofficially?
Unofficially, what should they be doing?
That's been the hardest part, because we have reached out, we have communicated to try and say, look, especially pitchers, if your arm is in shape and you go from no activity, and then the state does give us a go ahead on May 1st, and you haven't thrown, in this case, it's going to be 6 weeks. If you have not thrown consistently, then you're expecting way too much. We could not expect a player to come back in and throw hardly at all, because you're going to risk injury and you're going to cause some arm problems. So we've encouraged our pitchers with catchers to use and have just short bullpen sessions, to take as many ground balls as you can. But that's hard, because the players are not used to hitting ground balls to each other, fly balls to each other. Swings, they're still, I see them out on the baseball field from time to time, still trying to get some swings in. So this is really weird, not just because our suspension of play, but we've been told to stay away from, the group activities. You can't have, I mean, I could physically, but they've told me they don't even want me to have sessions with 1 and 2 or 3 at a time, because we could do that, but other schools and school districts have banned any face-to-face with players. So in the name of even competition, they're saying, we don't want you even working out in like tutoring sessions, because other school districts are saying no. And so
basically they're kind of in hope that they have a sibling or someone else that they could go throw within their own backyard or something with an immediate family member, pretty much.
Yeah. And we're certainly encouraging them via text and email to say, hey, our field's open. How come nobody's using it? So try and get them to come and still commit. That's my worst nightmare about this, is if I can see somebody winning a state championship and that player saying, when we got shut down, we took it upon ourselves to work and work and work. And now that work has paid off. So my worst nightmare is that we had all this momentum, great boys working hard, coming to practice, doing everything we asked, and then have that momentum and then have, a lag to jumpstart. But it's tough on boys to show a commitment on their own.
Yeah, definitely. And that's been, what I've seen across all the sports, even with my kids that, are in college and doing athletics. They're having to go out on their own and do their own thing. And I've seen a couple virtual, track meets and stuff where they have somebody out and go do their single event and record it and they put it on YouTube or whatever. But it's just not the same as head-to-head competition.
No, it's not. My daughters in their gymnastics, they've been kicked out of BYU. My daughters have now had the longest break off of a balance beam or a vault table, basically in the last 12 to 15 years. So it's just not only just not competition, but the ability to practice it the way you normally do has even been suspended.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are your thoughts? I know that UHSAA has talked a little bit about potentially, if this thing does end in May, that they'll do a shortened season or something and maybe go into June or potentially even early July. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll take anything I can get. I have had communication with the state, and they've kind of got a few scenarios lined up. So if they went back May 1st, they've got one of two scenarios. Would we just try and finish? We'd have to blow up all the schedule, so they'd have to reinvent the schedules. But they've got two scenarios. One is essentially just start a state tournament when we come back, because that's already 3 weeks long. And then the other scenario is basically play for 3 weeks and then start the state tournament, which would be that'd get us to about the 20th of June. My vote is I'd love to have as much baseball as possible. So if the boys are willing, if the state gives us any hope, I would love to just pick the season up and extend it beyond. There's so many implications of not doing that. So I'd be happy to say we'll take 3 weeks if that's all we can get, but I would love at least 6 weeks. Get us till, say, the 1st of July. That would be awesome to give them a chance to actually live out a high school season, especially for the seniors.
Yeah, it's definitely something tough for the seniors to see them have to kind of walk away and not get that opportunity. So
yeah.
Well, great, Coach. I appreciate you taking some time today. This has been very informative, and we hope that our Maple Mountain Sports and Maple Mountain Athletic supporters really appreciate this time as well. And, you know, that's all we had today. And I, again, appreciate everything that you've done.
Oh, and we are very grateful for the Porcaros and all that you do. So thank you. Happy to do it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care.
So you've just heard our coach, Gary Miner, and had him present to us and talk with us, answer a few questions. We hope that you've enjoyed this broadcast of the Eagles Nest. We've got some other interviews lined up over the next few days. We'll be talking to some players and other coaches of other sports. And again, we thank you for following us. And again, this was the Eagles Nest. Please follow us on Maple Mountain Sports YouTube, also on Instagram, Maple Mountain Sports. You can follow us, Maple MTN Sports, at Twitter, and on Facebook, Maple Mountain Sports. So again, this has been the Eagles Nest, and I am Jeff Porcaro, your host, and thank you for joining.